again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Daily December 2019. This is day 6, and excuse me, not day 6, day 26, and yeah, it took me less than a day to get backed up again, which is really typical of the end of the month. Simply because Christmas itself is Christmas itself is just kind of crazy, and then the week between Christmas and New Year's, nobody really wants to get anything done, but you have to, and yeah, it's just weird. So today, I want to kind of give an update on the whole character builder thing. If you watched Daily December earlier, you know that I picked up an offline character builder for 4th edition D&D, because back when 4E was the current game, I used their online character builder. So I mentioned later that I actually went and I found a way to pay for a subscription to the online character builder, and even though I paid for it, they wouldn't give me access. And I found out why after searching the interwebs. First things first, I found there's actually a pretty decently sized 4E community I didn't know about. If you're into D&D, you will you kind of recognize that each edition has their own little community that swears their edition is the best edition. And the most vocal of these edition warriors is what I call them, is the 3.5, where they claim not only was theirs the best edition, but every edition afterwards is actively hurting D&D, and it's ruining it for everyone. You've seen it a little bit, like the first edition purists and the second edition people that didn't like just how bloated third edition got. But in my experience, the 3E guys are the worst. But 4th edition, most people will assume that because of the backlash, mostly from the 3E purists, that everybody hated 4th edition and nobody plays it anymore, which is completely untrue. I know a lot of... I personally loved 4th edition. I don't play it because I don't have enough of the books. All my stuff was digital. Yeah, I found a Reddit page. It's pretty active. There's a lot. If you go to Roll20, I believe they release every so often. They'll actually release numbers for how many people are playing what game. And 4E is one of the larger groups. It's not nearly as large as 5E or Pathfinder or anything like that, but it rings up there. So I found that interesting, and when I was looking on this Reddit, I found out that anyone that was still a subscriber to D&D Insider, which was the character builder and everything, that they all got a message stating that D&D Insider would be closing down on the 31st of December of this year. Anyone that had a subscription before that announcement would be able to use it up until the end. But they wouldn't accept new subscriptions, and they would actually refund the month of December and any subsequent months, because you could pay for a year at a time. So that kind of blew me away, and I finally got my refund, and they said we're currently having an issue where we can't add new subscribers. Wizards wouldn't tell me that they were shutting it down, and their reasoning is that it used a plugin called Microsoft Silverlight, and that plugin's no longer supported. It was an Internet Explorer thing. And Internet Explorer's not even the thing anymore. It's now Microsoft Edge. So that's the explanation they gave to these subscribers. Here is my thoughts on it. Fourth edition is technically the lost D&D edition, and what I mean by that, you can't buy fourth edition supplements or rule books for any of the current digital places. Like Fantasy Grounds is really popular because you can literally play any system you want using Fantasy Grounds. And basically what you do is you purchase Fantasy Grounds, and then you purchase this system you want to play in it, and it'll give you all the rule books and everything you need to build characters and run games, the things like that. And you generally buy them piecemeal. Though some of the older ones you can just pay a set price for the whole system. Fourth edition doesn't exist there. Roll20 has this same thing, where you can buy books, even fifth edition books you can buy in Roll20 and adventures and things, and you can run a fourth edition that doesn't exist there either. Now, they have fourth edition games you can run, but you can't buy any of the books or anything. You can't use their pre-built kind of character builder type things. You have to have your own books and input literally everything but by hand, which for any edition that's not great. But fourth edition, because of the power system, is really rough, because you don't just have to put in like a monk in fifth edition. If you had to build it from scratch into their character sheet, you really don't. Like, you put in your stats and everything, and then in the notes section you just jot down the certain abilities, like stunning strike, and keep track of your key points. Like, it's not that hard. But since every class had multiple powers they could use, and each power did something different, the fourth edition monk was really interesting, because most of their powers came with two parts. You would have an attack, and then you would have a movement feature you could do when you used that attack. So like one attack would you'd punch someone, but then you could shift your movement speed. Uh, and shifting basically meant you wouldn't provoke opportunity attacks or anything like that. It was but you're normally limited to just shifting 5 feet in your turn. With this monk ability, you'd attack and then shift, or shift and then attack. So monks were super hyper mobile in 4E, simply because almost all of their attacks had a special kind of movement you could use when you used that attack. It made them really confusing at first, but once you understood it, they were really cool. So putting that into it would just take hours per character. Um, so the D&D Insider was the only game in town, whereas literally anywhere else you can find your preferred place for a character builder, and there's even some free ones around. And most of that is due to the fact that third edition had what was called the D20 system. That was their open source baseline system for RPGs. That's what Pathfinder was built on. Funnily enough, Wizards of the Coast actually gave Paizo, before it was Paizo, the tools they needed to create their biggest competitor. And I find that hilarious. Um, and fifth edition has what's called the systems reference document, which basically gives you the basics of every class, generally one, maybe two subclasses for each one, and then the rest of the basics of the system. This is how spellcasting works, combat, monsters. So you could literally, using the SRD, create your own system that piggybacks on the idea of the D5Es and uses most of its mechanics, but can go completely different directions, like go to space or whatever you want with it. Fourth edition doesn't have that. There is no SRD. I think I found something once that kind of acted as an SRD sort of for fourth edition, but it was never complete enough to actually build a game off of. So literally, fourth edition, the only place where you could build characters without using the books and having to write everything down and get confusing, was the character builder, and now they're closing it. Like I said, it's very possible that it's simply because the plugin they use is no longer going to work, and they'd have to update everything, and they weren't making a ton of money off of it. So just a financial technical decision. My thoughts and what I would like to see happen is fourth edition books you can buy the digital copies of now. It's relatively recent, like within the past year or two, I think. But you get them on DM's Guild. You buy PDFs of them. And they're not bad price. I think they average like $20 a book. Now there's a ton of 40 books, and I don't even know if they have all the 40 books on there. But that's a way you can at least get the books themselves if you want to run fourth edition. What I would really like to see is the reason they're closing this, because this is kind of what Wizards does, is they're going to license the 40 system to Fantasy Grounds or Roll20, or even license it to D&D Beyond, which, by the way, they don't own. It's actually, I had the name. Anyway, it's a separate company that licensed the brand, from this is gonna drive me nuts. I Curse. That's what it's called. Curse. Curse actually licensed the the brand from Wizards of the Coast to create the D&D Beyond tool. I would really love to see them use D&D Beyond, because it is a super solid character builder. It creates character sheets for you. They now have basically D&D Beyond has everything D&D Insider had for 4E and more. Like, it's a really powerful system. I would love to see them add 4E options to D&D Beyond. That would be the quickest way for me to start paying for things on D&D Beyond. Because right now, I get all my books as physical copies, because I don't like paying twice for books. But if they were to do that, I think 2 4E books. I might have 3. I would rebuy those and every other book. I would rebuy the Madness of Gardmore Abbey. If I could get it on D&D Beyond, or if I could get it on Fantasy Grounds or Roll20, I would just like a digital character builder. Now, on the now I do want to mention again, that is all conjecture. Wizards has said nothing. I haven't seen whispers of this on any forum anywhere. This is just me in my own kind of business mind. They could make some money off of it by licensing this system to somebody else. The other company would do most of the work, so they wouldn't even have to pay for it. Yeah, it'd be a win-win for Wizards. As far as the other companies, I'm not 100% sure how profitable it would be for them. But if they were the only game in town, like 5th edition, there are character builders everywhere for it. Because of the system reference document, they're just everywhere. And there are character builders for 3rd edition and Pathfinder. They have them, and some of them are decent. A lot of them are really confusing. Some of them are Excel worksheets. Like, I'm not kidding. They have character builders that are entirely built in Excel, which is a really cool thing to do when you think about it. Because 100%, that's not what Excel is supposed to do. And yet you can use it that way. So I love stuff like that. But yeah, so updates to the old character builder, the offline one. I mentioned it didn't have all the options in there, and that's why I wasn't really fond of it. I did find a patch for it that I apparently already had, and I just installed wrong. There is a patch for it that basically puts in all the stuff it didn't have before, and now it is the only game in town. So I don't feel quite as bad about. I tried going, the legal route and going out and paying for it, and I can't anymore. So I don't feel quite as bad about using. It's basically kind of fan-made version of it. Or fan improved. It was released by Wizards of the Coast on purpose. It just fell out of disuse, and fans made it useful again. So I do still have that. I still would like to do a 4th edition stream where I just build crazy, wacky characters. I just for fun, I will open up the character builder and just go to town. Like I recently created a Goliath rune priest, which rune priests were a leader class in 4E, meant they were healers. The way they did most of their healing was by beating the bad guys senseless, and then healing would come. Kind of like the battle warden or whatever. For the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. For the artificer. This is annoying the hell out of me. I have literally all this stuff, all the unearthed arcana. There we go. Okay. I'm just really quick gonna look because it's driving me nuts that I can't remember what is called. But Battlesmith, that's what it's called. Man, I hate my because of the meds they had me on almost a year ago. Now, my memory is just horrible. Anyway, so it's kind of like the Battlesmith, where they beat people and heal by doing it. But even more so, and mine specifically healed with a great sword. It was such a cool concept, so different than what we currently have. Though again, the Battlesmith might be able to pull that off, but not at level 1. Yeah, I still want to do a 4th edition character builders streams sometime. I just have to find enough people that'd be willing to watch it. Anyway, yeah. Again, all of this is good conjecture. None of it has been even hinted at by Wizards of the Coast. But I'm hoping, now that they're closing down the D&D Insider, which again launched way back, like in 2010, 11, back when 4th edition was still the valid edition of D&D. So it's been going for like 5th has been out for 5 or 6 years now. So definitely it has been it's been going for a long time. So I'm hoping that means they're not just throwing it all together. I really would like to see it show up in Fantasy Grounds or Roll20 or on D&D Beyond, just because it's fun. But building characters in 4th edition is super fun. Whereas building them in 3rd edition is just a chore, to be blunt. Building them in 5th edition is still somewhat fun, but you don't get the unless you really min-max them and use really strange stuff. You don't just get the crazy characters like my Avengers Sword Mage hybrid that literally just teleports everywhere in a single round of combat. At level 6, I think he had 4 or 5 different single combat. It 4 or 5 teleports they could do, and got all of those back on a short rest, which is 5 minutes in 4th edition. So yeah, I mean, it's just a cool, interesting character that was just crazy fun to play. I played him in. I'll tell that story some other time. Anyway, that's all for me today. I'm gonna hopefully get caught up again because we only have a few days left of December. So again, that's all for me today. I'll see you guys the next time. All right, bye bye.